So we're going to move on to the first item on the agenda, which is apologies for absence. Do you have any apologies, Town Clerk?
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Borman due to travel issues. We have apologies from Councillor Richard Honeyman for a prior commitment, and apologies from Councillor Walraven and Matthews as they are unwell.
Thank you very much. Second item on the agenda.
Councillor Lindsay Sturton is travelling in.
Yes, thank you so much. We're expecting him a little bit later. Welcome. Agenda item 2, disclosure of interest. Do any councillors have any interest to disclose? Councillor Bristow.
Just to say that I'm employed by the South Downs National Park and feature as one of the main partners for the National Nature Reserve.
Thank you.
Although it's not hearings, I'm not directly involved.
Okay, thank you very much. If at any point, anyone else? No? If at any point in the meeting a councillor does feel that they may have an interest to disclose, please raise this straight away and officers can provide advice. Next item is agenda item 2A, dispensations. We are asked to note that so this is to note that the Town Clerk grants dispensation to all councillors to take part in discussion and vote on item 11. This dispensation is granted in order for the Town Council to be quorate and to consider its policy in relation to members' allowance. This dispensation will last the duration of this current administration, i.e. up until May 2027. So we need to go to vote on this. Do I have a proposer for item 7? Councillor Huru, and a seconder, Councillor Bristow. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? Okay. One abstention. Do come in. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. So that motion's passed. Thank you. So now we'll move on to public participation. Obviously, we've just given the explanation for public participation to deal with any questions or brief representations from members of the public in accordance with relevant legislation and Seaford Town Council policy. So if you would like to speak, those of you that wish to speak, raise your hands and then we'll take you in order. So perhaps, lady in the front, thank you very much. Would you like to start? Speak to me.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the Seaford Town Council. My name is Heidi Watkins, and most of you will know me as being the bugler for commemoration services and funerals. I'm here tonight, this evening, on behalf of the Wedden family. Mrs. Valerie Wedden is 90 and is the mother of the young Royal Marine, Gareth Christopher Wedden, who was killed whilst on duty in Northern Ireland. Gareth was born on February 3rd, 1959 and died on November the 12th, 1978. Gareth and his family lived at number 12 Park Road, Seaford. He was the youngest of 3 children. He attended Annecy Primary School in Seaford before going on to St Paul's Roman Catholic School, Haywards Heath. Gareth was passionate about sport from a very early age. He played football for St Paul's School and was their team captain for 4 years. He also regularly visited and was members of Seaford sports clubs where possible. The whole Wedden family were very much involved in the Seaford community, and this continued after the death of Gareth. When Gareth left school, he enlisted in the Royal Marine Commandos on the 25th of May 1976 to K Company 42 Royal Marine Commandos. On December the 10th, he passed out with flying colours. He was deployed on active service to Northern Ireland in 1978. Just 1 week away from completing his tour of duty, he was fatally injured. On November the 9th, Gareth was on a foot patrol in the Blaney Road, Crossmaglen area of County Omagh. All 4 members of the company were injured by a remote-controlled IED. 4 days later, Gareth passed away from injuries at Musgrave Hospital, Belfast, with his mother and fiancée at his side. His body was returned home to Seaford and was according a full military funeral at St Thomas More Church in Seaford. A very large crowd of people turned out to support the Wedden family, and Mrs Wedden invited the current mayor at the time of Seaford to sit with her and her family as a sign of appreciation and just being gratitude. Gareth was buried in Seaford Cemetery. This young 19-year-old sacrificed his life in the service of the country. We must remember Gareth and all those who have died for their country. Not to do so is to break faith with all who serve in uniform.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any other people? Helen, thank you very much at the back. Would you like to stand up?
Thank you. Good evening, council members. This is in regards to Seaford Town Council's concessions. Thank you for the opportunity to address this council. I'm here not just as a concession tenant, but as a committed member of Seaford's community, advocating for a fair resolution to the challenges that have surrounded newly refurbished Martello Cafe over the past several months. Since being awarded the cafe in early 2024, I have experienced some major challenges, including an increase in my tender application rent, a reduction in tender application tenure, major structural defects that made the space unsafe to open due to flooding, major structural drawbacks that limit the space, including power supply and internal setup. All of the above have had a major impact on my new startup business and its financial viability during the key seasonal months. I recently attended a meeting set up by Seaford Town Council management team to discuss all of the above and a fair and collaborative resolution. I attended in good faith, but I was deeply disheartened to be presented with a pre-printed legal letter. I expected a collaborative meeting, but instead was met with confrontation and no option for discussion. I'm disheartened that instead of engaging in fair discussion, our council would start legal proceedings against the resident, and even though the Seaford Town Council's own health and safety inspector deemed the premises unsafe for public access, that you would insist on opening ahead of essential maintenance works. Despite these setbacks, I continue serving our wonderful community and have managed to build a solid network of residents and customers, many of which are in support of this plea. I'm here tonight to reaffirm my commitment to resolving these issues amicably in the hope that this council and its members will help navigating a fair way forward. I've placed my life savings, heart and soul into the startup business. It's always been my dream to create a space which is inclusive and welcoming for all. I work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day to get the business off the ground and to create something really special for our community. I'm currently thrilled to be a new father to a 3-week-old baby, and instead of celebrating this special time, I'm navigating all of the above. This council publicly committed to support small local businesses in your concessions policy and public statements. I implore you as council members to fulfill this promise and your role to serve the people of Seaford by investigating this further. As it stands, there are still issues with the building, and the Seaford Town Council's officer are now ignoring my emails, and I've had no reply to my official response to the legal letter from 2nd of December. I appreciate your time, consideration and support in getting the meeting in place and creating a more positive, professional working relationship for your concessions. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other members of the public who would like to speak? Okay, thank you very much. So that's the end of that item for public participation. I'm now moving on to item 4, petitions. At the moment we have no petitions that have been received by officers. So are any members of the public wishing to submit a petition at this stage? No? Okay. Thank you very much. So we're now going to move on to agenda item 5. I would like to ask each chair to propose their own minutes. We have a list of minutes here for full council, planning and highways, climate change, personnel, community services and also finance and general purposes. If the chair or the vice chair isn't present, I would hope that another member of the team of the committee will put themselves forward. Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to start with full council, which is actually myself. So I'm going to be looking to propose to accept the full council draft minutes for the 14th of November 2024 and also the extraordinary full council draft minutes of the 12th of December 2024. I do propose this. I would look for a seconder. Thank you, Councillor. I'm doing it again, aren't I? Right. Thank you. I do apologise. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. Thank you. Moving on to planning and highways, we have 2 minutes to approve. We have the 7th of November 2024 planning and highways draft minutes and also the 28th of November 2024 planning and highways draft minutes. I would look to any member of the planning committee. Councillor Hurrell, I'm so sorry, thank you very much. And 17th December, thank you very much. And I've had a proposer from Councillor.
Those are.
Right, okay, so I'm looking at proposer for those. Thank you, Councillor Buchanan, and a seconder, Councillor Honeyman. That's fine, thank you very much. I got Honeyman at the back. Okay, thank you very much. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. Those minutes, draft minutes are accepted. We're moving on to climate change. This is for the 21st of November 2024 climate change subcommittee draft minutes. I turn to Councillor Briscoe as the chair for proposing, and a seconder please. Thank you, Councillor Buchanan. All those in favour? Thank you. Any of those against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much for those minutes passed. And now moving to Personnel Committee for the 27th of November 2024 Personnel Draft Minutes. Looking to Councillor Honeyman to propose. And a seconder please. Thank you. Councillor Taylor. Yes, lovely, thank you very much. And then the next, sorry, we have to vote. So, all those in favour? And all those against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much for that. Okay, the next is Community Services. Community Services draft minutes for the 5th of December 2024. And over to my colleague, Councillor Wearmouth, as Chair of Community Services, as proposer. A seconder, Councillor Taylor. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Councillor Meek. Thank you very much. And then we have one final one. This is for the Finance and General Purposes Committee. No, Finance and General Purposes Committee for the 19th of December 2024 draft minutes. Councillor Hurrell, would you like to propose? Thank you very much. And Councillor Dubois to second. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much indeed. Okay, so we're now moving on to the Mayor's update report. Okay.
So, as a result of doing the agendas, we've got some agendas here. Are we able to give it if we take the exempt part out?
Yes, if you like to. Yeah, if you could take time to thank you, Councillor Holmes. Okay, thank you for that. It's very kind. Okay, so I'm moving on to agenda item 6, which is the Mayor's update report. The purpose of the report being to present the Mayor's update report and details of engagements. And I'm very happy to present this report myself and also to thank my Deputy Mayor, Councillor Wimmer, for her contributions to the many, many events which she also accompanied me on some of them and also attended some in my absence. As you can see, December was rather a busy month. Hey-ho. But I think we all enjoyed ourselves. And I have to say that even though it was very busy, I was delighted to be able to be part of so many celebrations and functions and also carol services. I do know my carols now very, very well. And it's also been a wonderful opportunity to share other carol services across other towns close to Seaford. And I'm very humbled by the donations and support that so many people have been involved with during this time. It was amazing to actually turn around Christmas Eve lunch for 20 people who came from quite isolated backgrounds on Christmas Eve. And I found that, Seaford was a really generous community in enabling us to do that. So I was very privileged, I think, to be part of that. So I would like to move to the recommendation to note the contents of the report and to ask for a proposer. Councillor Hurrell and the seconder. Thank you. Councillor Rutland. Thank you very much indeed. Could we vote? Oh, sorry. Point of order? No, oh, sorry.
Are we voting?
Yes, we are voting. Yeah, I was just moving to voting. Yes. So, you're preventing my voting. Yes. All those in favour? Thank you very much, Councillor Meek. All those against? Okay, any abstentions? Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, so moving on. To the next item, agenda item, is item 7, and this is to receive the interim town clerk's update report for January 2025, and I turn to the interim town clerk to present that report.
Thank you, Chair. I hope my report provides assurance and alignment with the key town council business, and I would invite any questions.
So, Councillor Meek.
Not a question, just thank you very much, Interim Town Clerk, for, in 3 months you've caught up with an enormous amount of stuff and have, managed to cope with it and progress it, and just thank you for, being a very good Interim Town Clerk.
Absolutely.
Thank you for those comments. Does anyone else have any comments or questions for our interim town clerk at this point? Councillor Taylor.
Yes, I just would like to echo the words of Councillor Meek, but I'd also like to say, as someone as councillor for Bishopstone Ward and interested in the west end of the beach, I was very pleased to see that the Boddingstead Ward situation has been unlocked after a period of being absolutely stalled, and I want to thank you particularly for making that happen. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions for Councillor Wimmer?
Yes, I'd like to ask if you could give a little bit more detail about item 1.13 about the government and devolution white paper. and how it might affect the town council. I know there's a lot of uncertainty, but if you could just give us your brief initial thoughts about this.
I'll try and keep it brief, but my understanding from the communications that have come out of the Sussex County Council and from various other sources such as the National Association of Local Councils, in brief is that the government's white paper on devolution invited local authorities to put forward proposals to move towards unitarisation in areas that still have a two-tier local government arrangement. And in response to that invitation, East Sussex County Council alongside West Sussex County Council separately but together wrote letters to the government proposing that they become unitary councils and further proposing that between them and alongside Brighton Hove City Council that they would like to advance through the government's initial scheme towards becoming a strategic mayoral authority, alongside a request for the county council elections in May 2025 to be deferred to allow elected members the time to work on those proposals. That letter was sent off on the 10th of January, I believe, and I believe that they're waiting for a response from the government as to whether or not that request and proposal has been accepted. In terms of Seaford Town Council, there are 3 references in the white paper to town and parish councils, and the one that strikes me the most is that it says we will rewire the relationship between town and parish councils with principal local authorities, strengthening expectations on engagement and a community voice. So we are yet to see how that is fleshed out, but hopefully we can see that as a positive move forward for Seaford Town Council. And obviously I'll keep councillors updated as information becomes available on the applications and proposals that have been put forward at county level, but also as other news comes out over the coming weeks. It is all quite happened in quite a short space of time. The white paper was only produced in December, and obviously with the Christmas break that means there's only been a few working weeks since that white paper was produced. But it appears that progress is being made quickly.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Do we have any other questions for our interim town clerk? Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you very much, Steve. I'd like to move to the recommendation to note the contents of the report. Do we have a proposer? Councillor Buchanan, do we have a seconder? Councillor William. Shall we go to voting? All those in favour? All those against? Do we have any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. If anyone would like to leave this, you're most welcome. Thank you so much for your contributions. Okay, so I'm now going to move to agenda item 8. Agenda item 8 is actually the Town Council Working Group report. So this is a standard agenda item to accommodate reports from active Town Council working groups. At the moment, there have none been submitted for this meeting. And so our next agenda item 9 is actually our outside body representative reports, and I'd like to ask if any councillors are looking to provide a verbal update from their outside bodies. Councillor Bristow.
Okay, sorry, 1 second. Okay, thanks, sorry for that. Yeah, I wanted to give an update on my outside body representation to the National Nature Reserve Partnership, which is forthcoming. So there are 8 key partners in this, ranging from the Southlands National Park, Natural England, South East Water, Forestry England, Sussex Wildlife Trust, potentially us, it's on the agenda tonight. Key landowners in this area own land which is very important for wildlife and nature conservation, as well as public access and appreciation of nature around our area, centred on the Chalk Aquifer. So National Nature Reserves are, as you would have read in the agenda, a voluntary declaration made by partners, this being a sort of super nature reserve, part of the King series, which seek to do three main things. They're to provide a vehicle and a joined up way of working together and thinking for conservation and moving into nature recovery to help us with the nature crisis and climate emergency. They're also to aid scientific research and monitoring, and indeed have been going for many decades for that purpose. And thirdly, and quite vitally for us, I feel, and I know our discussions in Climate Change Subcommittee have highlighted, that they're to enhance access, people's appreciation of nature, people being able to get out and enjoy that, do their recreational pursuits and so on. So on Tuesday we had a whole day visit, which I attended, as did one of our town council officers, where we essentially went on a field trip, a road trip around some of the key sites here. So one of them being Lullington Heath, which is already a national level nature reserve area. So it's essentially starting there and sort of expanding off. We went to Gales Farm between Seaford and Eastbourne, where they have different soil type because the ground was sort of improved in World War II, so they're looking at different methods up there. Bristol Forest, looking at different ways of grazing. Seaford Head, our area up there that we own. And in each one of these, it was really great to have key people high up people from the organisations, as well as people working on the ground. And we were able to discuss many different things. And just to give an example, other partners are finding issues also with visitor numbers, pressure on the land, wanting to do their best to conserve nature whilst enabling people to enjoy it. And it was really a great sort of taster, if you like, of what could happen if we joined this National Nature Reserve project, where there's lots of knowledge sharing and experience sharing, and indeed a challenge I put to everyone over the lunch table was, this is great for nature, and we at Seaford Town Council obviously want to support everything we can to enhance our nature. But also we have got a specific problem whereby we are at times overrun by or overwhelmed by visitors and transport and traffic and so on. And can the partners help us to formulate a solution to deal with that? So to me, it's definitely a vehicle that can work both ways. We can contribute to, we can gain something from. There are opportunities out there for joined up bids, future funding, knowledge sharing, so on and so forth. And just enhanced communication, and by everyone knowing everyone and connecting things at landscape scale, it's not just good for flora and fauna, but should be good for us as a council as well. So it was a really great but very cold day on Tuesday. And I know this is going to be considered later on in the agenda, so I just wanted to give that flavour of how things are developing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councillor. Do we have anyone else with any reports? Yes, Councillor Meek.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just following directly on from that, and also because Councillor Bristow is also a member of the outside body, which is the Seaford Local Nature Reserve Management Committee, which is a really mouthful. But you will all know that over the last 2 years, well, after many years, there's been this management committee called Seaford Head. And we now have a situation where we have got a lot of the stakeholders come together twice a year, and we have very good meetings, and we discuss lots of things, but ultimately nothing really gets done, which is a shame, because they're real experts from Natural England and all sorts of South Downs National Park. So it raises the issue that now we're probably going to have a National Nature Reserve fellowship, if you like, involvement. It might be the case that this could supersede the Seaford Head Local Nature Reserve Management Committee, because we'll be both trying to do the same thing with the same people. Not quite, but it overlaps to a great extent. And I'm just thinking that because we don't seem to be able to get anything done with the management committee, because actually there's no one to actually do it, it's not mandated by anybody, but yet we own the land. It's quite a complicated way to get this. We actually as a town council have to be the people who do it. But of course that involves a lot of finance and things like that. So I'm just kind of flagging up that there might need to be some kind of movement there as to how we go forward, particularly when the NNR, if it comes, if we take part in it, it will affect that as well. And I agree absolutely with visitor numbers and traffic. The other outside body I've been involved with is Trees for Seaford, who have planted about 100 trees this autumn, in conjunction with East Sussex County Council as well. And actually, it's reported that since the tree wardens, which it used to be, came into existence, are now Trees for Seaford, we have planted over 2,000 trees in Seaford, which is amazing. So, that group goes from strength to strength, and is a very worthwhile group of involved and dedicated people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have any other contributions? Councillor Taylor?
Hello, thank you. I would just like to say something about the Citizens Advice Bureau, although I wasn't able to be at the meeting. That we are very fortunate here that CAB are maintaining their relationship with us. They're based at Friends of Bishopstow Station, at the meeting room there, and they regularly attend meetings, and a worker from CAB regularly attends meetings and picks up issues from the largely older group of people who attend those meetings. It's a service to the community, which is deemed to be a rural community, which is why CAB have been funded to keep a worker there. It's deemed to be rural. I think I'm extremely grateful for that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Taylor, for the update. Any further updates from outside bodies? Okay, thank you to for those 3 reports. And we just need to note those. So thank you very much. And moving on to agenda item 10, want to give an opportunity to see if any district or county councillors present are looking to provide a verbal update on business and activities that affect the Seaford and the local area. Do we have any? Yes. Thank you, Councillor Ademiji.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just 3 minor issues. Following on from the town tax response to Councillor Wayne, obviously, as you were well aware, this was the County Council of the Secretary of State. Again, the initial response will be coming back hopefully by the end of January. And if once there are two decisions expected. One is obviously to decide whether East Sussex County Council will be on the first tranche of councils to go forward. That will be known by the end of January. By mid-February, the Secretary of State will publish formal legislation to decide whether to defer the elections to be held in May. And again, that will be formally be known. So, and that will be up to the Secretary of State to decide. My understanding is that in March, there will be a publication for parish and town councils initiated as the Secretary of State. So by March, hopefully there will be more formal, more better understanding of how the proposed initiative definition will affect town and parish councils. And the second note is that the County Council will be setting its budget for the next financial year on the 11th of February. There's been proposal to cut costs or make some savings. That includes having the waste and recycling sites, having to pre-book and closing some adult social care centres as well across the county. There was a £54 million deficit, and so there's a big gap in the budget that has to be found. For the first time in a long time, the county council will be using its reserves to actually fund that. But I think the most important thing Seaford, I think, is about residents' view on having to pre-book waste and recycling services. In Seaford, the waste and recycling site is only open 3 days a week. So if any resident is going to comment or concerns on the consultation, can that be fed to the 2 or 3 county councillors in Seaford ahead of the meeting in 2 weeks' time? And these are my 2 updates. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful. Thank you, Councillor Antonigi. Councillor Lee?
Thank you, Chair. Could I just, Councillor Antonigi, just on the back of that, could I just confirm I understood that the consultation on the waste consultation had closed some time ago?
Yes, I think to be fed to your local county councillors as well. So I think because obviously we still have a chance to influence the actual outcome.
Thank you.
Well, that's helpful to know. Thank you very much. Okay. Do we have any other county councillors, district councillors? Yes, Councillor
District councillor. Obviously, we have the local plan public consultation going on at the moment. I was quickly looking for the dates, but I can't find them. I think there's one this Thursday next week, isn't it, on the 30th?
Yes.
Yes. I was quickly looking for the date, and I obviously couldn't find it. So that's next Thursday, and that's at the Downs Leisure Centre, and that's early evening. There is also various going around various towns, and in New Haven at the, should have written this down, at the marketplace, no?
Marine Workshop.
Marine Workshops, there will be, it won't be personed, but you'll be able to go and have a look at the various plans. And that's something we really, really the District Council wants lots and lots of people to be involved in this public consultation. Because it's really important that everyone has their views and everyone says something. A lot of people have already been sending them in, but we need everyone to really be able to participate in this. So please look on the Lewis District Council website and look at the different times and venues where you can actually go and have a look at the plan. But I think the marine workshops will be going on through most of February at different times, and it would be really good for members of the public to go and see it. We did ask if there would be more than one event in Seaford, but we were told they'd actually put them throughout the whole district, but marine workshops will be good for people to go and they can have a look.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Hammond. Really helpful information. Councillor Meek?
So, thank you, Chair. Just to add to that, I think the consultation at Marine Workshops on the 5th of February.
I know it's through Park, most of it. It's through
Some of it, I think there should be officers from the National Park there for the National Park local plan, and also Lewis District officers for the Lewis District local plan. Because these things affect us. The South Wales National Park also, because it borders us, and actually Seaford Head is in the National Park. And there are some some kind of confrontations over those kind of things, whereby one plan doesn't recognise what's going on in the other plan necessarily. And I think members of the public, if they could point that out, it would be very useful. For instance, views from one to the other aren't necessarily taken into account. And that is very pertinent to how the plans are developed, and they should be developed in sync so that there's a complete overview, not just a sectionalised overview. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that, both contributions. Any further contributions from the district? Okay, thank you very much for all those contributions. I'm now going to move on to agenda item 11, which is members' allowances. Bear with me. So, our members' allowances presentation, the purpose of the report, just to present recommendation from Finance and General Purposes Committee regarding the Town Council's member allowance policy, and I'm going to turn to our interim Town Clerk just to give an overview. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So on the 19th of December, the Finance and General Purposes Committee met and considered a proposal in relation to payment of a member's allowance. After discussion, the recommendation from the FGMP Committee was to defer any amendments to the members' allowance policy for the committee to reconsider in December 2026 at the latest. Is there any questions?
Any questions at all? Councillor Hook?
Not a question, but did just want some feedback from that meeting, some of the discussion that we had around not going for an allowance, despite there being some arguments that it does help with encouraging different types of people into being councillors. The reason we decided on December 2026 to defer it to is that's ahead of the end of this term of our time as councillors. So we would be making a decision for the next set of councillors that would come in May 2027. The other reason to defer is also, of course, we do have this local government reorganisation, and the role of the town councillor could change significantly by the end of our term. So we'd be making a decision for the next set of councillors, as we'd be very unlikely to approve giving ourselves the money. We could do it for them. And we would know clearly what the town council would be like going forward.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hurry. Councillor Honeyman and then Councillor Smith. Thank you.
Yes, just to bring up that obviously it has been, I know it's been talked about, there are obviously some people who might not be able to stand because, for example, they might not be able to afford a laptop. So is that ever, if somebody wanted to stand, but can that be looked at when it comes to, when we go through in December 2026, if there's the options that councillors need help with buying some equipment so they can actually do their role? Just as options. Because not everyone will want one, but it just the options so that it doesn't deter people who may not be able to afford the necessary equipment to do the role.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Make a note of that. Thank you. Councillor Stern.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to approve of Councillor Hurro's remarks, but also make some suggestions for what happens in 2026 when this is considered again. I very much understand the concern that we want to get a wide range of people to do civic service as councillors, and that there may be people who are simply unable to do so because of the financial costs involved. I appreciate that we're not taking any decisions now, but I do wonder if the substantive goals might be met, and it might be considered when the time comes, if instead of paying an allowance, we consider certain kinds of expenses to be paid, so that, you know, for example, a particular councillor might have people in their ward with who tend to correspond by mail rather than email. So for that person, buying a load of stamps might be the sort of thing, and possibly a printer or ink cartridges or something. Others might have others, but you know, one could consider paying not an allowance, which is effectively a salary for civic service, but to allow it to you know, perhaps select from a list of approved expenses and consider doing it that way, which goes directly to the concern that there are costs of civic service, and to support people who want supporting that would be the right modality for doing so.
Thank you very much. Thank you for those ideas again. Thank you very much. Councillor Adam Eugene.
Thank you very much. So I didn't plan to speak on this, but following Councillor, sorry, I've forgotten your name. Following Councillor Shatton's contribution, I thought I just had a brainwave, not very often, but now with some form of dependency allowance, and that's something that's been done in both district and county councils, where councillors are maybe have got childcare, or it could be both childcare costs, or even people looking after their parents as well, and grandparents as well, and unable to attend meetings because obviously they've had to pay for childcare costs. So whilst we're not looking at members' allowance, maybe something I want to look at is how we can help people with childcare costs, or effectively some form of dependency allowance, because that would broaden our scope as a council and actually encourage people to stand and hopefully help and prevent things that can actually deter them from actually attending meetings.
Thank you very much for those ideas. Any further comments or ideas? I think we've noted all of those, haven't we? Thank you, Georgia, and I think we can bring all that back. We put those in the minutes.
Yeah, so I think on the forward plan for the December 2026 FGOP, we'll note all of those ideas as being something to discuss. when this is brought back for the FGP committee.
I've just got a further comment about laptops, because I think if everybody could be provided, all councillors could be provided with a laptop, A, it would be less stigmatising, but it would also help with going paperless. It would help with security, and it would also help with keeping matters, it would be easier if we didn't have to pick up paper, but we knew it was secure, and therefore it wouldn't actually be our laptop. We would collect a laptop when we got appointed, and we would give it back, hopefully. I know there's a problem with councillors who have laptops from other councils, but it strikes me that paper does feel a little bit old-fashioned now, and it doesn't feel very secure either. And if we could do this with a green idea, it might actually help get it over the line.
Thank you very much, Councillor Briscoe.
Yeah, just to respond to that, so there was an item on our last Climate Change Subcommittee agenda which we discussed this very topic as part of a forthcoming paper and print strategy, and there's actually lots of considerations to be had and quite a long and lengthy discussion around accessibility, etc., etc. So just to make everyone aware that there is that discussion that has begun to happen in council and is following the appropriate routes.
Thank you very much for that information. Do we have any further comments? Well, if we could move to the recommendations. So we are noting, one, to note the contents of the report, and two, to approve the recommendation of the Finance and General Purposes Committee in deferring any amendments to the members' allowances policy for the committee to reconsider in December 2026 at the latest. I'm very happy to take both those recommendations together. Colleagues are happy, and I would ask for a proposer. Councillor Huru, and the seconder is Councillor Dubar. All those in favour? All those against? Do we have any abstentions? Thank you very much for that. Okay, moving forward to item 12. And what we are looking to discuss the interim update of the annual governance and accountability return AGAR for 2023 to 2024. And I'm looking to our officer, Lucy Clark, who's our responsible finance officer, to deliver this report.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you, Chair. This report is an interim update on the annual governance and accountability return, the AGAR, for the financial year of 23-24. It outlines the current status of our submission to the external auditor, who are PKF Littleton, and highlights the key developments of their ongoing review. In summary, the review process has been delayed due to correspondence received by the external auditor regarding this year's and/or previous year's returns. We've been advised that this will involve further investigations at a cost of £355 per hour. Before they start their investigations, they will contact the town clerk to ask his view of these objections, and officers are proactively investigating these two objections and gathering as much relevant information as possible to provide a clear response when required, and hopefully reduce the auditor's involvement and thus reducing the costs. The financial implications of the extended review have been addressed in the report, with the provision included in the 25-26 budget. However, additional costs beyond this provision may need to be covered from general reserves. I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Lucy. Do we have any questions on this? Councillor Bristow?
Yeah, just casting my mind back to March 2024, we had an item on the agenda asking for us to approve auditors, but it was too late to actually essentially make any changes. We're going to find ourselves in a similar position this year because we were assured that we would have notice much further in advance so that we could consider that matter. Is there a dependency there?
This is the external auditor,
Oh, right,
not the internal.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we have to go with these people.
At the moment. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Adeniji.
Thank you very much. are we aware, or are you aware of the nature of the complainants? I guess what kind of worries me was that obviously after the AGA had been published, residents have a choice, a chance to actually contact the council to view our accounts and raise any queries. So if where any queries raised with the councils before, so we just want, yes, two questions. Are you aware of what the issue is? Did they actually contact the council initially? Because they had 30-day window after they had been published to actually contact us to view our accounts, and what was the response?
Okay, should we turn to that?
So, through the chair, yes, I'm aware of the two complaints. As I understand the process, residents are free to contact and make a complaint to the external auditor, regardless of whether or not they've raised that with the town council. In answer to the question whether they've raised it beforehand, I don't know the answer to that. I can find out and let you know.
I don't think that. What I was just trying to make was, can I say, I hope, from having you on board has been great. I mean, and I think a lot has been achieved, and I'm sure that in future, or hopefully in the future, we won't be in this situation. It's obviously highly unusual for residents to raise an issue directly with the external auditor without first raising it with the town council. But I think I'm assured that in future, that wouldn't be the case. So I don't need to come back to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other queries, questions on the basis of this report? Okay, I'd like to move then to the recommendation to note the contents of the report. Do we have a proposer? Councillor Mead, and a seconder. Councillor Adeniji, thank you very much. All those in favour? And all those against? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, happy? Moving on. Agenda item 13. So this is looking at the interim internal audit report for 2024-2025 and to present this interim internal report from Noel Green Co Limited. And again I turn to our RFO, Mr Clark, to present that. Thank you.
Okay, so this report covers the interim internal audit for 24-25. And as everyone's aware, Cola appointed our internal auditor for this year, and their interim audit was carried out on October the 15th. So in summary, the auditor found that our internal systems and procedures are well established and followed. However, a few recommendations have been made, including increasing the emergency spend limit, reviewing the fidelity guarantee, increasing the bad debt write-off limits, and adjusting the fund level for the investment strategy when it's next reviewed. So officers are already working with these recommendations with discussions planned for the next Finance and General Purposes Committee meeting. Also I'll add, with your question a moment ago, they will be conducting a final audit in May this year, but we're going to bring a report in March for the to appoint new internal auditors. I think that might be mentioned in the report as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Lucy. Do we have any questions? Councillor Meek?
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm wondering what the thinking behind increasing the bad debt write-off to £5,000 is. I mean, it seems to me that if anybody has the nous to look at our processes and builds up a debt and that's £4,500, they're going to think, well, no one's going to come after me for that because they'll write it off. It seems to me that if you've got a debt, you ought to be pursuing it within a certain amount of costs, I thought. Is this because the costs are going to be so great it's not worth it? Just asking.
I think that's one for you, Chair. I think it was that it gives the F&GP delegation to write off a debt up to that amount rather than go to full council for that amount. I think that was the behind that. So it's just that I think at the moment the finance regs say that anything over 3,000 has to be written off by full council. But this is saying that the F&GP committee can delegate up to 5,000 if they want to. So that's, I think that's what.
If I can just add to that, Councillor, we have a robust process to try and ensure that any bad debts that exist are chased to the extent where we believe we can't chase them anymore before recommendations are given to write off. And it's not done simply or easily, but only if we believe we cannot progress it any further do we propose to F&GP that we should write it off.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? Councillor Dillon?
I was just wondering if you could reword that in the lines of what Councillor Meek was saying. It would make people assume that they're going to have their bad debt written off. So if you can clarify that it's the bad debt that doesn't have to go to full council, that's the agreement, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any further questions or queries? Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to move to the recommendation, which is to note the internal auditor's report. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Hurry. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Rutland. Okay, so all those in favour? Sorry. Yep. All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you everyone very much indeed. Okay, so I'm now moving to agenda item 14, which is the final budget for 2025-2026 and precept setting. I'm presenting this as again our Lucy Clark, Responsible Finance Officer. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay, so this report presents the 25 to 26 budget proposals. However, firstly, I must apologise that there's been a slight error in the amount quoted with the recommendation of the report, as it should be lower by £75. So therefore, the actual precept request to be voted on is £1,248,359. The difference of the £75 is actually mentioned in section 4 of the report, and it relates to a small alteration with the income for the golf. It's just that I didn't change it on the actual recommendation, so I apologise for that. So in summary, the budget presented is asking for 28 pence a week increase during 25-26, which is equivalent to an annual increase of £14.68. An annual increase of £14.68. And as mentioned within the financial appraisal, one of the reasons for this precept increase is the significant cost of employers' national insurance contributions imposed by the government. So, that's to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you so much, and for all the work that you put into this. Yeah, really detailed. Thank you very much indeed. So, any questions, please? Councillor Rutland.
No, I would just commend Lucy on some excellent work. This has all been very easy to read, very easy to understand if you're not mathematically inclined, which some of us aren't. And you can see there's been a lot of work going into this, so thank you very much, well done.
Thank you. Councillor Dubart.
Thank you. A couple of points. As you know, I raised this every time, looking for splits between what people paid for the football club compared to other areas. So I know Lucy, you agreed to meet with me to go through that. So I look forward to us organising something in the near future. And in addition to that, it's something that's cropped up recently, and I've been reminded that last year we agreed community services with the previous town clerk that he would task officers to get quotes from a marine engineer with a view to providing a solution to the Hope Gap steps. And having looked through, I can't see anything that's been set aside for that marine engineering quote. Could you update me on that, please?
Do we have an earmark reserve?
So we have an earmark reserve?
There's an earmark reserve, the Seaford Head Nature Reserve, which includes Hope Gaps.
Oh, right. Well, that's good news.
How much is it?
Off the top of your head, that's a bit.
It's not all for Hope Gap steps, but I think it's around 52,000 that's in the earmark reserve.
And how would anybody know that looking at this?
It's kind of outside the budget, so it's whether so if everything's been agreed and the work's been agreed in that year, you can use the earmark reserves.
Just in relation to your first point, Councillor Devas, we do have an officer, one of Sharon's officers, who is investigating the background behind the pitch fee queries. He's doing some research, talking to various different people and organisations to try and come forward with a brief report to me so I can give a fuller report to councillors of what we've discovered in terms of the pitch fees. As you know, I agree with you that we would do that in the new year, and so the officer has been doing that over the last couple of weeks, and as soon as they report to me, I'll report to council.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Councillor Bristol.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to our both parents and everyone else who's helped. Echo Councillor Rutland's comments. I've got two things which I'd like to ask about. The first one is that obviously we've done the budget on our current committee structure and committee responsibilities, whereas we're moving in May to a similar but different committee structure. And I'd like to understand more about how we've taken that into account in this budget, because it's, we're sort of migrating to a new normal there. Do we plan some sort of transition year, or have you already thought about how much from the current sort of committee budgets will go into the new committee budgets, given that particularly with golf, open spaces and climate action, we're combining three kind of major elements into there that haven't been before. We know that climate action hasn't been well resourced, and we need it to be to achieve that sixth strategic objective and to relate to everything else that's going on in the council. So that's question one. Question two is, can officers be confident that with any projects we're having at Seaford Town Council which may incur costs additional to what's in this budget, that those costs are going to be settled from external parties and externally, and we don't need to budget for them in this year's budget, or if we do we need to think about putting that in? Thank you.
Okay, through the chair, indeed. In answer to your second question, I'm going to take it in reverse. In answer to your second question, in relation to costs that we become aware of that are caused by external parties, I think we will do our best to ensure that those external parties are the ones that fund those costs. Apart from in situations where the other party is a voluntary sector organisation, such as, for example, the Museum and Seaford Heritage organisation, who I think Council wouldn't want us to try and pass costs on to. But in a commercial setting or another setting, in a normal setting, I think we would try and make sure that those are passed on. In relation to the committee funding, obviously we're in a bit of a difficult position to know how to do that for this year, because at the point when Lucy was putting together the budget, the committee restructure hadn't been agreed, and now obviously this hasn't been agreed, so we can't make assumptions. I think the plan is that we can go, once this is approved, if it's approved, between then and when the new committee structure starts in May, we can go through line by line and apportion the appropriate amount for each of the various different lines to the correct committee and rework the committee budget so the total remains the same, but that the budgets are provided with a sufficient amount of money for each of the various responsibilities they've got. In terms of, there's two committees that aren't changing significantly, so personnel and FGMP are remaining largely as is. the significant changes where community services is going to become golf, open spaces and climate action and assets and facilities. But each of the spend and income within those committee budgets is apportioned to a specific thing, and we should be able to work out how much goes where. And I imagine that we'll try and make sure that the chairs of those committees are happy with the way that that's been split before we settle that as being your figure.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Adeniji, did you have a word in there?
Just thank you to the offices and for putting together the budget. Obviously, the only reference I can see in the draft budget to the reserves was just a couple of line items about transfer to reserves and transfer from general reserves. But I think it would have been nice in the past. We do have the report of the reserves as well. Even though this is setting the precept, I think as councillors, I would have loved to have an holistic approach as to the financial situation of the council. And I just wondered why we didn't have a report outlining the level of reserves that we do have. And can you actually just, I know you're putting you on the spot, can you just outline a level of general reserves and airback reserves that we do have? Because obviously for me it's quite important when it's setting the precept to be aware of what our reserves as well.
I do apologise for not including the earmark reserves because I think that probably would have been right. It's always included at the year-end report, but I think maybe it would have been a good idea, so I apologise. But from memory, it's about 600,000 earmark reserves, and the general reserves, as it stood about a week ago, was 1.4 million. But obviously that will change as we come up to the year-end.
Thank you for that. Councillor Hood?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Lucy, as our RFO for a very good budget. I think we should acknowledge that the rise in the precept is quite high. That's reflected in other councils and other areas too. Part of the reason for that for us is that we are having a staffing review to ensure that the town council is able to be adequately staffed to be a positive voice in our town, and we should acknowledge that as part of this budget. But also a very big part of the reason that we've got this rise is because of the government's increased national insurance contributions for employers, which all town councils are having to deal with because the government chose not to exempt them from that. So we should also acknowledge that too in the rise.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Lucy, for all your work. I'll move to the recommendations. So if we could do that first. So if we could just propose an amendment to the recommendation 3, which is to agree the precept request to Lewes District Council for 2025 to 2026 as 1,248,359. Do I have a proposal for that? Thank you, Councillor Bristow. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Rutland. Okay, all those in favour? All those against? Okay, one, and any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much for that. And then if we go back to the first two recommendations, the first, yeah, we can vote on them all again now. So the first, to note the contents of this report and associated attachments. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Meek and a seconder. Councillor Huru. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. The second recommendation, to agree the budget proposal for 2025 to 2026. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Meek. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Rutland. All those in favour? All those against? Thank you. And any abstentions? And finally, to agree the precept request to Lewes District Council for 2025-26 as
1,248,359.
Thank you very much. A proposer, please. Councillor Meek, and a seconder. Councillor Whelan. All those in favour? All those against? And any abstentions? Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for all your work. Okay, we will move on to agenda item 15. So, agenda item 15, and this is the memorials policy update, and this is to formally approve a temporary pause in the memorials policy alongside an exceptions process, and this is going to be presented by our interim clerk. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Chair. So for the last period of time, we have had an officer impose temporary pause on the memorials policy. The proposal here is to discuss if the Town Council wishes to formally pause the memorials policy until the 1st of April 2026, to consider the recommendation to introduce an exceptions process to that pause, and then obviously to vote on the motions. But I would invite any questions.
So any questions concerning the memorials policy? Sorry, Councillor Hannan.
Yes, I have a piece to read out, and this is from Chris Sumners, Claire Sumner's husband. He asked if the following could be read out, as I won't be able to get childcare in place. So I get a lot of people asking, the only reason I get childcare in place is because I didn't make note of yesterday, this is coming in, I haven't done it, so that's just why. I get a lot of people asking about Claire's memorial. A lot of local people and societies donated, and there is £10,000 sitting there waiting for the council to do the right thing and give Claire Sumners the memorial and remember that she deserves. The funding is in place for Claire's memorial, but we are running out of time. I really would like Claire's memorial in place or agreed by the 8th of March, as it will be 3 years since Claire passed away, and it is rather fitting it will be International Women's Day that day also. I think the council need reminding just how much Claire did for the town in getting it plastic-free status in 2018. Not an easy task. The time she gave going into schools, speaking at societies, always willing to go the extra mile to get the message out. There for plastic pollution and holding Southern Water to task on many occasions. I have turned down interviews with TV and the paper on Claire's memorial because how long it has taken to be done. I think it's time this was resolved and was given the attention it deserves. So I was asked to read that out. I am concerned this has taken a long time, and the fact that this wasn't actually officially paused. So I'm actually glad this has now come to council, and that the option is that with the exceptions process, that 7 councillors can put this as an option and it can go to full council. I have let Mr Sanders know that, so we will see how this section goes. But I do feel really sad really that this has taken something like a memorials policy, and the fact that this is because people who have relatives have passed away, that this is something that had to be put on pause. So I'm going to stop there.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hannan. Do we have any other comments on the memorials policy? Councillor Taylor and then Councillor Bristow.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We heard the early our guest present the case for a different kind of exception, and I think I'm not going to go into that because she was very eloquent about it. It's a statement that I entirely support. But I think it is important that we allow for exceptions that I think are difficult to predict because they are very different from each other. That's what I mean. Exceptions, by their nature, are very different from each other. But we should allow for an exceptions policy. I think it's very unfortunate the memorials policy altogether has been put on hold, or was put on hold, and but I understand the reasons behind that. We've gone through quite a difficult period, and what we need to be thinking about now is how we move forward, and an exceptions policy, which this is about, is part of that.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bristol and Councillor Rutland.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to understand a little bit more about some of the practicalities and what officers are sort of investigating and what may or may not be possible in this kind of interim and potentially pause period. I've had queries about whether memorial trees can be planted, for example, on town council land. I know a lot of our memorials policy focuses quite a lot on benches. So I was just wondering if we're looking at alternative ways, or if something like sort of alternative modes of memorial might come into the exceptions category. And the second thing I wanted to flag is that, as I'm sure you're aware, that although we have many amazing and very robust and wonderful benches of different materials, in particular in and around Seaford Head, many of the benches are in a very poor state of repair, or simply you can't sit on them because they're so badly decomposed now. I was just wondering how aware we are of that, and whether there's a sort of programme to replace them and maybe contact people who have maybe had benches for a very long. Is there any sort of like lifetime on it and sort of renewal process is my query. Thank you.
You're tending to address that to officers. I'm just wondering if any officers want to.
Yeah,
are you happy to respond to that, Sharon? Thank you very much.
With the review of the memorial policy, it is looking at various other options, not just benches. Trees can be complicated, depending on type, plant wear, watering. So we can look at those, but it just may be a little bit complicated for the officers to be able to maintain that ongoing. With regards to benches, there needs to be an audit of those benches, where they are, what state that they are currently at. Whether we ever had the contact details for those people. So we are finding that the ones that are becoming into disrepair, we don't have any details as to contact families.
If I can just add to that.
Yes, absolutely.
Currently, we're not undertaking much of this investigation because we need to get the staff review and the officers in place. And the reason that I've proposed the pause until March 2026 is to give us time to onboard those officers and for them to do an exploration of how other councils deal with this matter, an audit, like Sharon has said, and get our ducks in a row, if you like, so that we can come back to full council ready for April 26 and say this is what we're proposing to do. And also that hopefully will be a self-funding model, so that we don't get to a situation where 10 years later we've got a bench that we have to pay to replace, potentially. So that's the proposal.
Okay, Councillor Rutland.
I was very touched by what the member of the public said earlier, and memorials are something that's deeply personal to many people. And while I appreciate the reason for this is because of staff shortages, to pause the policy does not sit well with me. I think when we've lost someone close, and when it is so emotive to so many people, we owe it to the memory of that person not to put it on hold, and actually not to pause this. I appreciate it's for staffing reasons, and the officers know they always have my unequivocal support, but I don't like this idea. Memorials are deeply personal. I've lost somebody myself earlier this week, and their funeral is on the 7th of February, and the idea of memorials being paused just feels wrong. That's just my personal view.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Rutland. Councillor Lord.
Thank you. Got quite a bit of experience on memorials as for Spellwood crematorium, and we had the situation whereby people wanted to put a memorial for one of the members, a member of the family, And with regards to exemptions, everybody's loved one, so I don't think we should have exemption policy if it's something better than somebody else. Everybody's the same. But what we did do, we offered them a 5 and 10 year contract. So we'd say, this particular belongs to you for 5 years, and you pay it for 5 years. After 5 years, we'll come back to you, you can have another 5 years. Alternatively, you can pay for 10 years, and we'll come back to you after 10 years. We've kept the contact details of these people alive, and you'd be surprised how many people pass away and move on. We can't chase them up to where they live now, or they gone into residential care with dementia, and it's a very, very, very emotive subject. We did, however, did something which a lot of councils are tending to do now. We put a tree up, a steel tree, and you put a leaf on it. And the leaf reflected the fact that you were a member of your family, and your leaf was on the tree. Quite a large tree, probably about as big as this room here. And that stayed there in perpetuity for a small fee. And it's a very, very difficult thing how you sort this out. I disagree with the exemption policy because we're all the same. If you're going to, I know it's done with benches because some are falling to pieces, they need to be varnished and made safe is the main thing. But I have to say, perhaps a root and branch approach needs to be taken into this with a firm policy as to what we're going to do in the future. Because in the past, oh yeah, we'll have a bench here, we'll have a bench there. You walk down Seaford, it's like walking down, unfortunately, it's like walking down a graveyard, I hate saying it. But the people loved, and that's why they do that. Finish with engines and things like this. And it's absolutely fantastic. So I don't want to kind of say we shouldn't stop. I agree with that. I think we need roots and branches and have a good think about it. I know trees are a nightmare as well, because believe you me, you plant a tree, it costs £1,000 just to water it, just so it doesn't die in the first 5 years. So I know trees like don't touch trees. So it's just a thought. That's something which is really simple for everybody, but we enter into a contract with people actually do it. And it just makes sense then. So we're in a position where we can say, yes you can, no you can't, or it's full. And so we have 200 benches down the front, that's where we can't, you're in a waiting list. So we're actually doing something positive, and not saying no. We're saying, well, you're in a waiting list, or there's 10 benches there. So, start making a point, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lord. Councillor Meek.
Thank you very much, Chair. Sorry, it's me again. Upkeep, I absolutely appreciate upkeep, but I think we discussed this in community services actually. It's quite simple. You just say, look, you pay for the bench for 10 years, and if it's fallen into disrepair, it's in disrepair. You can't expect us to replace it. So it would be for a period of time, I think. I seem to remember that the particular problem with Claire Summers was something to do with the fact that they wanted to position it in a certain place, and it was possibly on the promenade. And there was some question about disposal of land in that case, because it was occupying a space on the promenade which was, our land. But are we then, if it's Claire's memorial, are we disposing it to her memorial? Does it still retain something to do with that? It's a kind of legality thing. So that was an issue I seem to remember, because actually the design has been made, the money's been raised, and I think Christopher Funnell was going to make it out of it. It was a very good design, I think. Well, there were various designs put forward, but anyway, be that as it may. There is a place for people to pay for memorials on the Shoal bench. I believe that's still, no? Can't you do that anymore?
It's full. It's full.
I've seen gaps on it.
It's the design. Sorry, Chair.
Really? I've seen bits of wood where there's gaps where there aren't any memorial plaques there. So I wonder if that would be a possibility, that if we did want to have something like that, you make a bench which is rather like that somewhere else where people can put plaques in. You could probably get 1,000 plaques on it, And that's something that worked, I think. That particular installation really worked. If you want a tree, I would suggest that one way to do it is to approach Trees for Seaford. We plant in streets, we can plant outside people's houses, and therefore the people whose house you plant outside could be the person who wants the memorial tree, and they will water it for the first 3 years, and if they move on after that, the tree will survive. It's normally the first 2 to 3 years that's critical. And we would, I'm sure, be able to do that with trees for seed. It's worth speaking to Marjorie Diamond about that. The only other thing I'd like to mention, which is a bit of a sore point here, we did some time ago, I can't remember how many years ago, but I had a complaint from a lady about this. She gave, and a lot of other people gave, in the order of £8,000 each towards an entertainment space that was supposed to be made as a memorial entertainment space by the Martello Tower. And it has never been built, and the council received something like £90,000 to do it. If they paid their money, no, Lucy, honestly, they paid their money. They can prove they paid the money. And I did ask the council where that money went to and what's happened to it. Because these people have paid the money and there's been no memorial made after that. So that's another thing. I know officers are overworked, but we do need to investigate that because there are some fairly upset people who've invested quite a lot of money in something that never came to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Yes, I do, please. Thank you very much.
Just to try and address some of the points raised. The reason the proposal includes a proposal that once we have the staff review in place and we've got those staff in place, we can undertake a review, a root and branch review of the best way of running a memorial policy within the town. We're talking about exploring various different options, models, exploring what other town councils and other councils do to try and resolve the issue. At the moment, we don't have the capacity, the officer capacity to do any of that. And if we were asked to continue to unpause the memorial policy, then something else would have to stop being done because the officer capacity is not there. So really, the proposal here is to formalise that pause that's already in existence at officer level, but then spend the next year until April 2026 coming up with a better policy which we can propose to full council. The reason for the proposal for the exceptions process is because I am already aware of two, very striking potential exceptions that have already been discussed in this evening's meeting. And the proposal was that it was felt it was unworkable to have a complete outright ban, because there were always going to be exceptions where there's such a strength of feeling within the town and within councillors that if a test was passed that there is that strength of feeling, then that as an individual exception could be discussed at the next full council meeting. So it's not a proposal which suggests that anyone is more important than anyone else. It's more to do with the strength of feeling because of the certain circumstances that person died in, or the reason behind it. Sorry?
That would flat.
It could be. But we've already heard of two potential exceptions processes this evening, which could be something which councillors view were important enough to take forward to the exceptions process. I don't know if, Lucy, could you pick up about the entertainment area, because I think you know more about that than I do, if that's all right.
I think what I know is that it's 32,000 that's been received in, it was not 90,000, it was 32,000, that's why I put it like that, because it wasn't 90,000, but I do need to get, it's still a lot of money, but I do know, I don't know probably it's that, but I know there's a lot of costs as well, so I think at the moment, what the actual remainder that we've got on that income is about £12,000. So not actually 32. So a lot of it went into the work around the installation of the actual benches. That's all I know at the moment. But I can look at it.
Following on, if I can add to that, following on from the discussion recently, we have already committed to look into the issue and be able to come forward with more detail once we understand it. It's just something which I've only recently become aware of, and we're going to explore it and come forward with recommendations of how to rectify that problem.
I'm going to let you come back on that actually, just very shortly.
Just very briefly, I just wondered if you could update the people, if you've got their names, if you know who they are. Is it possible just to say, we are still working on this? Because otherwise they're left not knowing what's happening. I don't know if you have, you must have all the details.
I don't know. Look into
maybe you could.
areas.
I I could look up an old email from the lady who first contacted me. But, thank you. Thank you.
That's issue. Okay, I've got two other Did you have anything else to say?
No, sorry.
We're good. Councillor Buchanan, did you want to?
Yes, if I may.
And then Councillor Stone.
Thank you, Chair. Just on a practical note, for these exceptions thing, if there's 1 to 2 requests being received every week, I've heard of the 2 that have been mentioned tonight, but I haven't heard of any others. How does one get to the point where you can write an email to support it or not, if you know what I mean, if there's 1 or 2 requests for memorial every week?
Okay, so if I can answer.
Yes.
The view that I have from what I've been informed about by officers and councillors are that the sort of cases that would come forward as an exception are cases that are generally well known around the town and which have generated an awareness, a general awareness in the town which councillors may feel strongly deserve to be considered as an exception.
So the officers would ask to send out an email to councillors.
That's not the proposal.
That's not the way it's going to work. It's the councillors have to.
Yeah. I mean, a number of councillors have already contacted me and approached me prior to this being even on the agenda in relation to the 2 cases that we've heard discussed this evening. So this is trying to formalise a process which is that if more than one third of councillors feel strongly enough that it should be discussed, that we can then put it on the agenda for the next meeting. It's a proposal as a way to try and have a release valve for the exceptional cases whilst maintaining a pause through it.
Okay, Councillor Sturge and then Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will be very brief. It's a procedural part. I'd just like to remind councillors and officers that in any matter where we have discretionary powers that we're exercising, we must always consider that there might be situations that don't fit the policy. So to have an exceptions policy is something that we should always do, or to have the possibility of people raising the possibility that something is an exception to a policy is something that we have to always do in all circumstances when we're exercising some kind of discretion.
Thank you, Councillor Sturgeon. Are you okay? Okay. Councillor Taylor.
Just to thank you for giving me a second chance to speak. With the, I believe with both the exceptions cases that are being discussed, there is no cost to the council. There will be no cost to the council. In the one case we heard about earlier, there is a donor who is prepared to pay the cost of either a suit. There is no room on the war memorial. We can't put his name, Gareth Whitten, on the war memorial. There is no room. But it will be a plaque or a stone that's placed at the war memorial or close to it. So that is a cost. It's going to be met by a member of the community.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Councillor.
Very briefly, it's disappointing that people are being upset and we're in this situation, but obviously that's going to happen whatever we decide tonight. What's the thinking on April 2026, and is there any feasibility to do it sooner to disappoint less people?
Okay, I'm going to turn to Councillor.
I mean, potentially, yes, but it's just the situation is that when we do the staff review, we're looking to onboard and recruit and onboard staff from April and then train them up in their roles, and then for the team to provide an officer or some officers to look into this and to work up proposals. If we can come back to full council before April 26, then I would encourage officers to complete the work earlier and for that to be brought back. But I was trying to give a realistic time frame of when I suspected the latest we should be able to come back.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Do we have any other queries, questions at all if we'd like to move to the recommendations? So the first recommendation, and I'd like to take them separately actually, is to note the contents of the report. Do you have a proposer for that? Councillor Huru and seconder, Councillor Wheeler. All those in favour? All those against? And any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. Moving to recommendation 2, to formally approve a temporary pause of the memorial policy with immediate effect until the 1st of April 2026. Do we have a proposer? Councillor Huru, seconder, Councillor Dubar. All those in favour? All those against? Thank you. Any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. And then finally, to approve an exceptions process to the paused memorial policy as detailed in section 4 below. Do we have a proposer? Councillor Duval. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Wearmouth. All those in favour? All those against? Thank you. Any abstentions? Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for that. I'm aware if anyone members of the public wish to you're more than welcome. We'll just stand and stretch. Councillors, I think we decided we're going to have a 5-minute break anyway, so okay, welcome back everyone. Thank you so much. Public participants, thank you for your patience. I think we probably did all use that break. Okay. We are now moving on to agenda item 16. And this is to consider the Climate Change Subcommittee's recommendation with regards to the Town Council's involvement in the Seven Sisters National Nature Reserve. And the report has been prepared by the interim town clerk and also Sharon Bryden, our assets and projects manager. Who's presenting the report? Would you like to start off and then perhaps Sharon will contribute where you can? Thank you so much.
So since my involvement in the town council, and obviously prior to that, there's been a great deal of interest in the town council joining into the National Nature Reserve. Most recently, Eastbourne Borough Council decided to join the National Nature Reserve a couple of months ago before Christmas, and the report is attached. Obviously, there's a report associated with that from the Natural England in terms of the proposal, and I would invite any questions.
Okay, so thank you very much for that. Do we have any questions which will be taken by the town clerk or Sharon? No questions? No questions? Do you have anything to say, Sharon? No? Okay. Yes, Councillor Wynne, okay.
At the sound of the risk of sounding like a stock record, the issue about moving the review of and planning for Hogarth Steps, it's mentioned in the appendix report, Appendix A, page 75, how joining the National Nature Reserve could help the planning and sharing information about Hogarth Steps, similar to how it's been mentioned by Councillor Bristol, joined up expertise, common experience, etc. Have you any idea how that could help the issue of Hogarth Steps and how we move this forward and assess what needs to be done?
I think that it means, without us, with some tentative investigations and conversations, that we would have access to relevant staff within the NNR through Natural England to work with their geologists to look at any options that are available to us and their opinions. And also there may be some funding pots that they might be able to direct us to as well, so that we can start exploring if we were to do any amendments or anything new at site, how we could fund those.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Councillor Briscoe, do you have a clue?
Yeah, unless anyone else wants to go into that.
You were there.
Right, yeah, thank you. So I've already spoken about the NNR proposal and our proposal for us to become an approved body, formally entering the partnership as part of my OBR report. I've also spoken about it several times. Thanks to the officers for a really comprehensive report and for the information from Natural England and others. I do think this is a real opportunity for us in many ways, which have already been described. To speak about the Hope Gap steps, we must remember that there are many NNRs around, and this is sort of becoming an NNR at landscape scale, a so-called super NNR, and of which there are a series of them, the King series, that are being designated after King Charles III. And within those NNRs there are partnership meetings and there are links forged between them, so it's not just having the luxury of closer contacts and relationships with organisations in our area, but in fact it opens doors to speak to people across the country and to really sort of pull that expertise and be directed perhaps to similar things as well. Councillor Meek earlier made a point about the Seaford Head Local Nature Reserve Management Committee, and I just wanted to stress, I think it's in the report, but just sort of for completeness, that whilst there is an overarching management framework which is to be worked up between all the partners who become approved bodies, it's very much an interactive thing. Our management plan, which we have with Sussex Wildlife Trust for Seaford Head, remains our thing, as it were. Whilst it will sit within that, we are the ones who get to discuss and describe that. So it's very much constructed, not sort of top-down, but bottom-up as well, and we retain that local control, which I think was one of the main concerns that was raised at Climate Change Subcommittee. So I just wanted to highlight that. Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity for us, and we do have the possibility later on to affiliate other types of land or include other land parcels in it. I know that we have the map that we produced, the proposal there, is essentially the land which is managed by Sussex Wildlife Trust. It's been looked at by Gulf, it's been discussed a lot, and Sharon's done a lot of coordinating with that and liaising with Natural England and so on. But I think what we have in that map today is the real core area that, personally, having sort of gone through the process as the OBR, I'd be really comfortable with us putting in as a first tranche, and I think it would really benefit us doing that. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think this is going to be, I'm very positive about this proposal. I'm particularly positive, and I'm thinking back to a recent meeting, I think it was at the View. There were a lot of people here very angry about visitors numbers, and we didn't have a good enough way of encouraging visitors to come to this area without flooding the area. We didn't really know how to manage it. It was happening before we were running to keep up with what was happening. And this does mean, it's on page 77 of this sort of odd, slightly odd document addendum, but it talks about how the opportunities to learn from other people in the NNR or other NNRs about how they are managing, to draw on their experience, to also opportunities to gather funding for signage, to develop a visitor strategy. I mean, I think some of these things will probably be very welcome by the people who live anywhere near to South Hill Barn, for example. So I'm thankful that this has come along and we're able to pick it up at this time when there's a lot of pressure. I know.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Do we have any other comments? Okay, so I'm going to move the recommendations. We have two recommendations before us. I'm going to take them one at a time. So the full council is recommended to 1, to approve the land denoted by in Appendix B of Report 136/24 to be included as part of the Seven Sisters National Nature Reserve. Okay, so do we have a proposer? Councillor Bristow. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Meek. All those in favour? All those against? And any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. And then if point 1 is approved, then to move to recommendation 2, to approve that Natural England be provided with a letter of intent to agree and confirm Seaford Town Council's commitment to becoming an approved body by Natural England's processes and under Section 35 of the Wildlife and Countryside Act 1981 to manage the land as a National Nature Reserve. Do I have a proposal for that? Councillor Bristow. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Buchanan. All those in favour? All those against? And any abstentions? And thank you very much for moving that forward. We will now move on to agenda item 17. And this is the purpose of the report is to seek full council's agreement to grant a new use by reference to Seaford Museum and Heritage Society. And I'm going to come to Interim Town Clerk to discuss the report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. My colleague Natalie Simpson apologises for her absence. She had to go to an emergency dentist appointment. But she had hoped to be here to talk through a number of reports that she submitted, but I'll do my best to stand in her stead. Obviously, the report proposes that we grant a new lease by reference to Seaford Museum and Heritage Society. They have been moved on to a temporary tenancy at will for the last few weeks, following on from their former lease expiring. And the report lays out the background and detail, so I'd invite any questions.
Okay, do we have any questions about this particular issue? Councillor Meek.
Quick question, Chair. I just wanted to say I wanted to apologise to the museum for that they were put in a situation where they didn't quite know what was going to happen. When the lease ran out, and I'm very glad, and I hope we will, give them a new lease. But I also hope that we will be a little bit more kind of engaged with them, so that we know what's happening, and maybe they can engage with us a bit more to let us know what's going on, and we maybe ought to occasionally pop down there, which is a great place to visit. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Meek. Okay, do we have any other? Councillor Sturgeon?
Yes, I would very much like to endorse Councillor Meek's remarks. I had occasion in the last year to take my children and my family to the museum. It was one of these things I'd never been before. I sort of imagined it would be quite interesting, but I'd be in and out in 15 minutes. I ended up spending the whole afternoon there. And I do encourage, I don't know, the interim town clerk has yet had occasion to visit, but he has not. I hope he does so soon as a paying customer.
Through the chair, I have visited, and I've met with, unfortunately not with Jane, but with the other trustees, and we had a good conversation, which has led to the paper being pulled forward tonight.
Thank you. Councillor Honeyman.
Yeah, I'd like to echo again the comments. I know when I went down to visit, when all councillors were invited to go and visit last summer, I was quite shocked at one point to see the state of their sort of damp section with the pipe work going on. And I'm really glad, and I know at that stage they were very, very worried about what was going to be going on. So I'm really pleased we've got to this stage, this is sorted out, and obviously everyone seems to be happy. So I'm really pleased that we've done that.
So am I. Thank you very much.
Any further comments from councillors? Okay, I'd just like to also say that I used to be a volunteer at the museum quite a few years ago now, before I came caught up rather in council work.
Yes.
And I found it absolutely, it was before the pandemic, and I also really recognised the amount of work that was put in during the pandemic actually, when you were redecorating and resorting things out, and then also changed the doorway and had the bridge, and I was kind of around that time, so you know, I really do appeal to everyone to take a visit. I always tell everyone it's like Doctor Who's spaceship. Yes, it's an amazing place, so thank you so much for all the work you do. So I'm going to move to the recommendations now. So I think I'm going to take them both together. So we're going to note the contents of this report and to approve the granting of a new lease by reference for the Martello Tower. So I'd like to go to a proposer, please, Councillor Rutland, and a seconder there, Councillor Huru. All those in favour, all those against, and any abstentions. Thank you everyone very much indeed.
Thank you very much, everybody.
You're most welcome to meet.
Excuse us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Well done.
Yeah, so agenda item 18, the Southwell Farm business tenancy, that item has been deferred to the March full council meeting, just in case you're looking for it in your agenda, as was I.
There was planned to come to this meeting, but the paperwork wasn't ready, so we deferred.
Okay, that was why I got confused. 19, so we now have agenda item 19, Seaford Cricket Club lease, and the purpose of the report is to seek full council's agreement of the lease arrangements with the Seaford Cricket Club, specifically in relation to the land used for the cricket nets at the Salts Recreation Ground. And in Natalie's absence, I'm going to turn to the interim town clerk to present this report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. So the paper seeks to explain the somewhat complicated situation that we find ourselves in. It appears a number of errors have taken place in the past, which have only just come to light. And in an attempt to try and resolve that situation, we've put forward some proposals in terms of legal advice as to how best to rectify the situation we find ourselves in. If any councillors misunderstand, or that if it's too complicated and it's not explained very well, then obviously I welcome any questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from councillors for the town clerk? No? Are you all satisfied? Happy with the report? Lovely. Okay, so I'm going to, in that case, take both recommendations together. I'm going to suggest to note the contents of this report, and secondly, to agree to surrender the existing lease with the Seaford Cricket Club and grant a new lease, enlarging the demise to include the land currently housing the cricket net, subject to written consent from Lewes District Council. I'd like a proposal for that, please. Councillor Rutland, and a seconder, Councillor Lord. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you everybody very much indeed. Moving on to number 20. And this purpose of the report is to appoint an additional member of the Climate Change Subcommittee. And I'm going to ask our HR and Governance Manager just to present the key issues related to the report. Thank you very much, Georgia.
So I think this is quite a kind of quick, simple report really. We've had a request from Councillor De Bass to join the Climate Change Subcommittee, processes that we have to get full council to approve new committee members being appointed. Obviously, if any other councillors wanted to nominate themselves to fill that vacancy, this is the point you can do it. Although I'd look to Councillor De Bass maybe just to confirm you are happy to continue with the nomination.
Yes, please.
And I'll pass back to the chair to...
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm looking to work towards the, any questions at all with that? Okay. Any questions? Everyone happy? Yeah. Okay. So moving towards the recommendation to approve the appointment of an additional member to the Climate Change Subcommittee for the remainder of the 2024 to 25 municipal year. And at the moment we have Councillor Duval who's put her name forward. Do we have a proposer? Councillor Huru and a seconder. Are we just, point of order?
Sorry.
Are you okay?
Yes.
Sure? Okay. Okay, so proposer, Councillor Huru, seconder, anyone? Councillor Meek, all those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Well, congratulations, Councillor Duval. So we're now moving to agenda item 21. And this purpose of the report is to present the proposed meeting timetable for the 2025-2026 municipal year for adoption. And again, I turn to our HR and Governance Officer Manager, Georgia, just to present any changes that you'd like to highlight for us in terms of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So I think nothing additional to add on top of what's already within the report. I guess just to confirm, this is our first timetable based upon the new structure that's being trialled next year with the committee. So it does see a reduction from 45 to 36 meetings, which I think is probably welcomed by many in the room. And obviously the aim is that we'll have kind of a better spread and balance of agenda items across the entire committee structure now. So I can speak on behalf of the officer team. We're looking forward to seeing kind of getting the new structure into practice and seeing how it goes. Just to clarify, as always, when we're setting the timetable, we try to avoid any key dates and just welcome any questions or any points that members have.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Do we have any comments or questions anyone would like to raise? Councillor Meek.
Just item number 2. I mean, I understand what's been said, but things I just wonder we won't have had a meeting for quite some time with the Climate Change Subcommittee, and I know it's going to become a different committee, but I think there are an awful lot of issues that are coming to the fore, particularly about the head and all sorts of other things. I wonder if it would still be useful to have a meeting so that we might be able to better inform a meeting in February. I will have a meeting in February, apparently. Sorry.
I'm pleased with Councillor Meek that you're well informed.
I'm not very.
I think it's the 6th of February. Councillor Meek.
Yeah.
26th.
6 hours. Oh, how we don't.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Are you clearer, Councillor Meek? Okay, maybe we could take this outside later. Okay, well, it would be good to know that you're having that meeting. Any further comments or questions, Councillor Huru?
What does AGAR mean about the full council on June 25?
So the annual governance and assurance return that we discussed earlier that's been objected to has to be submitted by the 30th of June to the external auditor. The reason why the first quarter is compressed into 2 months is because we can't start that quarter until mayor making, which has to fall in May, and we have to finish that quarter by the 30th of June so that we can submit the AGAR. But it also then leads to a situation in the second quarter where we can avoid the summer holidays when a lot of members and other officers are not available. We're making that second quarter 4 months long. So it's a compromise but roughly quarterly meeting schedule.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other comments from any of the councillors? I'd just like to make a comment myself. I'd like to congratulate our interim town clerk for introducing such a logical and reductionist timetable for us. I really do think we're going to benefit going forward in the next 2 years, in our administration at least. It makes life much easier in terms of ensuring that issues are actually taken through appropriate committees and well discussed before coming then to full council. There will be no shocks or surprises. We will have had plenty of time to discuss. I'm also very pleased to see that we are going to be undertaking mayor making on the 8th of May, and that meeting will be much shorter because actually we do need to elect our mayor and deputy mayor and our committee members and chairs and working groups so that we can then start that second term of quarterly cycle in the right way so that all the committees are then taken forward, and it will also give myself and other chairs, if they're not going forward, opportunities to induct and support new chairs. So I think it's a really an enabling timetable, and I'm extremely grateful for the innovation. So thank you very much. Okay, well done. So we will move to the recommendations if we don't have any other comments, and I think I'm going to take them both together. So the first recommendation, to adopt the 2025-26 meeting timetable, and secondly, to agree that the Climate Change Subcommittee meeting scheduled for the 1st of May 2025 be cancelled due to the Gulf Open Spaces and Climate Action Committee meeting in June 2025. I'd like to ask for a proposer, Councillor Briscoe, a seconder, Councillor Rutland. All those in favour? All those against? And any abstentions? Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, so now we're going to move to agenda item 22, which is exclusion of press and public. It was so lovely to have you up until this point.
Yes, I was.
Well done for sticking it out. To agenda item 22.
Yes. Okay, I'm off.
Blessing, yeah.
And you, good stay for good.
Yeah.
Happy New Year to everybody.
I'm going to pass the vote first before you have to disappear.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, all right.
Okay.
Councillor Hearing, I just need to go through the exclusion of the vote.
Sorry, Chair.
Just do the vote first, then everything.
Okay, thank you. So the exclusion of press and the public, and we are just going to say, in accordance with the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960, I move that the press and the public be excluded from the meeting during the discussion on the remaining items of business for the reasons as set out in the agenda, and I propose it, and I'd like to seek for a seconder, Councillor Rutland. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, I think we can confirm that. Okay, thank you very much. So thank you so much for staying with us.